Hi everyone, welcome back to Rebirth TV. This is Stacy Benton, and I just want to really thank you for listening in and watching the videos. We are really extremely excited, and I hope you're having a very wonderful day. Let me turn the volume up a little here. I hope you guys are having a very wonderful day because I am. I am feeling absolutely amazing. And I really want to encourage you guys to take care of yourself. Take time out for self-care, and just really take care of yourself. Make sure that you're doing things that will keep you in a healthy state physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. And looking at yourself from a holistic perspective as you go through your healing journey from your complex trauma. So what I'm going to do today is we were actually discussing on the previous videos when it comes to childhood abuse, because this is the rebirth experience. We are in the Rebirth A Gift Series, which comes from the novel Rebirth A Gift. I will encourage anyone and everyone to get your copy. It is a fictional novel, because it will really help. It will be entertaining but also encouraging to you as you go through your journey of healing from your complex trauma. So I want to really encourage you as well to go back and watch the other videos, because it will give you a better perspective, foundation on what we're doing here at Rebirth TV, and also with the Rebirth Experience launch. So right now we are in part 1, which is conception. And this actually is the first part of the book as well. So we're following along with the novel. So that's why I want you to really go get your copy as soon as possible. Start reading it, and it will actually, everything will start to kind of come together for you, as well as watching the Rebirth TV series, but also as you continue on your journey of healing from your complex trauma. So, on the last video, we were talking about childhood trauma. So what I'm going to do here, I'm just going to switch the screen and just share some valuable information with you, because one of the premises for Rebirth TV is that it's definitely educational and help you when it comes to your journey from healing from your own trauma, and giving you more knowledge and wisdom and understanding, and also support during your healing process that you are taking, and so that you can transform and continue your transformational process that you are going through as you transition through to the other side of becoming whom you always envision yourself to be. So let me just switch the screen here. Just give me a second. There we go. So one of the things that I was really focusing on again is childhood abuse. And one thing that we were talking about on the last video was how emotional abuse in childhood changes the brain. And this is an article written by Leonard Holmes. He has a PhD. So it is a credible article. And I really like these articles that's from www.verywellmind.com, because it will just give you more education when it comes to what your experience or what you are, or what your child may be experiencing if you have children, if they have gone through any type of traumatic event. So definitely childhood abuse really changes the brain. And that's why you have to be patient with yourself and more loving and compassionate with yourself as you go through your journey of healing. Because if you had received or experienced trauma as a child, and if you were exposed to that experience over a period of time. For instance, you were in foster care and you just experienced going from foster home until you aged out of the system as an adult. That experience as a child really alters your brain. And because of the trauma, because it disrupts the natural progression of your mind and your consciousness as you was experiencing that trauma of foster care. So that's just an example, but you can apply that to even if you were a child and you experienced a divorce. A divorce is very traumatic for a child, especially if it was a high conflict divorce where the parents were fighting. There was a lot of confusion in the home. There was a lot of tense emotions and anxiety. And that can actually increase in the intensity and can be very detrimental if the child was tossed from home to home, if there were domestic violence or family violence involved. This is extremely stressful. And I want to definitely encourage you that if you experience that, or if you have a child and you're currently going through a divorce that's high conflict, or just in general, really just first, let me just focus on high conflict, because if it is high conflict, then you definitely want to incorporate times where you sit down and you talk to your child. And I know it could be challenging for you, but it's very important because your child needs you during this very critical, stressful time. And even if you just check in once a day and just ask, how are you feeling? Is everything okay? And just talk through what your child is experiencing in a very loving and compassionate manner. Now, I want to encourage you that even if you are emotionally dysregulated or emotionally stressed, then still find time where you feel kind of a downtime, where you feel more balanced emotionally, mentally, to just sit down and just talk with your child, because they're really going to appreciate that. And what that does is disrupts the toxic pattern in the brain, in the level of cortisol, brain chemicals that the child is going through as a result of the stressful situation. So it disrupts that by calming them down, giving them understanding, asking them how they feel. And this will increase a healthy bond or connection with your child. And it does not matter what age they are. Even if you are going through a divorce and you have adult children. Now, yes, you don't want to have to communicate as their children, but they're still as they were when they were a child, but they're still your children. So just having a space where they can share how they feel will only create an environment that is safe, but it also creates an environment that will allow them to create a better bond with you. If one of the other parents is highly narcissistic or toxic, then you as the healthy parent, this is very vital for you to spend this quality time with your small child or your children. And just let them know that even though this is a difficult time, encourage them, nurture them, comfort them. Okay? So I know this is a lot to handle, but it will really help tremendously as you go through this process. If you're in a high conflict relationship and you're going through a separation or a divorce. So that's just a nugget there, just to kind of help with disrupting the childhood changes in the brain and reducing the amount of emotional abuse, or I would say emotional stress. Because emotional abuse comes if the child is still in that toxic environment and you and your significant other, husband or wife, what the situation is, if you guys are constantly going back and forth, arguing, fussing, that creates a very tense environment. And that alone changes the brain patterns and how that child views relationships, themselves. It reduces their self-esteem, and also how they relate to building relationships with others. So that's why it's very important that if you are in a high conflict, toxic relationship, or if you are not creating an environment that's balanced and healthy for the child, that you really look at ways to put the child first during these times. You definitely want to take care of yourself, but just really take that time to check in with the needs of that child, okay, and just seeing how they feel. So let's just scroll down here. We were talking about, now on the other video, you will see here that we were talking about just different types of emotional abuse, emotional neglect. We went over that. And let me scroll down here. And what I want to do is just go here as we were discussing how abuse alters the brain structure. So as children grow, their brains undergo periods of rapid development. Negative experiences can disrupt those developmental periods, leading to changes in the brain later on. Research supports this idea and suggests that the timing and duration of childhood abuse can impact the way it affects those children later in life. Abuse that occurs early in childhood for a prolonged period of time, for example, can lead to particularly negative outcomes. Dr. Morton Teacher and his colleagues at the Harvard Medical School and Northeastern University studied this relationship between abuse and brain structure by using magnetic resonance imaging. So that's an MRI scan to identify measured changes in the brain structure among young adults who have experienced childhood abuse or neglect. They found clear differences in 9 brain regions between those who had experienced trauma, childhood trauma, and those who had not. The most obvious changes were the brain regions that help balance emotions and impulses, as well as self-aware thinking. The study results indicate that people who have been through childhood abuse or neglect do have an increased risk of developing mental health issues later on. Now, that's a lot in that little paragraph, but it really shows and confirms what we were just talking about. How traumatic and how it really takes a toll on a child brain-wise, and it can relate to and it can develop mental health issues, so meaning that it can increase those risks. So for instance, if you had a child that went through a very traumatic event like a divorce, a highly conflict divorce, and then later on, okay, you may be grown now, all right, you may be an adult, and you're suffering with some level of mental issues, bipolar disorder, depression, anxiety, obsessive compulsive disorder, post-traumatic stress disorder. But you probably never really connected the two, because you're thinking, well, that happened when I was a child. That really has nothing to do with me as an adult. But there's definitely a correlation there. There is a correlation between your childhood trauma and developing mental health issues later on, because it changes regions of the brain, 9 brain regions at that. And if you have some type of emotional dysregulation now and impulses, okay, as well as self-aware thinking, you lack self-awareness of how you feel inside. There's a disassociation there. So just really think about this. I'm going to end this video here, but we will come back with a second video or another video, just really staying on this article because I think it's very profound. So thank you, and I'll see you guys back on the next video.